The sun rose over Tenerife's ragged cliffs like a torch held too close to an old wound, bleeding orange into the jagged terrain. Dust rose underfoot, dry and relentless, painting boots and jeans with the mountain's stubborn memory. For the 20th morning, Mark Slater stood at the base of the barranco, eyes narrowed, staring into the raw folds of the landscape that had swallowed his son. Jay had vanished without a sound. No text, no call, just an empty digital trail that ended somewhere between a rented Airbnb in Masca and the sky. "He's out there," Mark whispered to no one, to everyone. "He's not gone. Not gone like that." Behind him, volunteers adjusted backpacks and double-checked ropes. The Guardia Civil's official search had scaled back days ago, citing no leads and worsening terrain. But Mark hadn't come this far to give up. The dry wind whipped through the ravine like breath through a hollow bone. Each morning, it greeted him with the same chorus. Silence broken only by rockfall and distant goats. And each night, Mark left a new piece of himself behind in the ravine, as though the mountain demanded sacrifice. He looked at the group, locals who didn't know Jay but knew loss, hikers with GPS kits, a couple of Brits who had seen the story on social media and booked flights out of sheer compulsion. Among them was Ella, Jay's best friend since childhood, clutching his hoodie like a lifeline. "Please subscribe to my YouTube channel." "Ready?" Mark asked. A round of nods, wordless but strong. They moved in a line, snaking up the pathless slope. Every stone felt personal. Every crevice looked like it might cradle a fallen boy. Jay had come to Tenerife for the music festival. His Instagram had lit up with selfies, grinning in reflective sunglasses, arms slung around new friends. For a kid from Lancashire who had always chased light, it made sense. And yet it ended in shadow. The last anyone heard, Jay had left the Airbnb with a phone on 1% battery, intending to walk back to his hotel, some 10 miles away, across mountains and sunburnt nothing. He had called Ella that morning. "I'm lost. My phone's dying. There's nothing out here." And then, silence. Mark climbed with grit rather than grace. At 49, he was built for garages and Saturday football, not cliffs and scree. But every stumble only sharpened his resolve. He scanned the terrain with a father's eyes, for signs of a fall, for a scrap of clothing, for the glint of a phone screen in the dust. The rescue dog barked. Everyone froze. Mark dashed forward. It was nothing. A fox's den. Empty. Dead leaves and a broken bottle. The group relaxed, the tension folding back into their bones like knives sheathed too soon. Mark didn't. He wouldn't just disappear, he said. Jay's smart. Even without a signal, he'd have found a way. Ella stepped beside him, her voice trembling. Unless he couldn't. Mark turned sharply. For a heartbeat, anger flared, because she'd said what he wouldn't. But it vanished quickly, swallowed by grief. He placed a calloused hand on her shoulder. "I have to believe he's alive." She nodded. "So do I." The terrain grew crueler by the hour. Scrub and stone. Spines of cactus. Birds overhead, indifferent. Mark thought about the night before Jay left. The argument. Nothing serious, just the usual, him saying Jay needed to take more responsibility, Jay rolling his eyes, saying he knew what he was doing. Now those words clung like barnacles, sharp and small and impossible to scrape away. Around noon, they reached a small plateau. From here, the world sprawled outward, volcanic ridges to the left, the sea like a scar on the horizon. Mark scanned with binoculars. Still nothing. One of the hikers, Tomas, suggested splitting up. 2 groups. "We cover more ground." "No one alone," Mark ordered. "I won't risk another missing person." Tomas nodded, understanding. They were all afraid, not just of finding something, but of finding nothing. The day bled into late afternoon. Heat shimmered off the stones like smoke. They pressed on. A red thread of hope wound through the group, thin and fraying. "Please subscribe to my YouTube channel." They came across a crevice, a narrow, dark split in the earth barely visible from the trail. Mark's heart kicked. He knelt, shone his flashlight down. Dust danced in the beam. At the bottom, 20 feet down, something pale. A shirt? Rope, he said. The group sprang into motion. Harnesses, anchors, the hiss of nylon through metal. Mark insisted on going down himself. No one stopped him. He descended slowly, fingers scraping rock, breath shallow. The crevice narrowed, funneled. The light wavered. At last, his boots hit the bottom. He moved the flashlight. A torn white t-shirt. His heart stuttered. It was Jay's. He recognized the faded logo. Kneeling, he touched it, dry, brittle with sun. No blood. Nearby, a cracked phone case. Jay's? It was empty. Still, proof. He had been here. Above, voices called out. Mark didn't answer. He sat down, shirt clutched in his fists. The weight of 20 days pressed down, harder than the mountain. He whispered Jay's name. No echo. When they pulled him back up, he was crying. Not loudly, just quietly, as if the mountain had wrung the water from his soul. Ella hugged him, and they stood like that while the others cleared the scene. We're closer, she said. Mark nodded, wiping his eyes. He was here. Maybe he still is. That night, Mark sat alone on a ridge, watching the sun die behind the sea. Around him, the others camped in silence. No one wanted to break the moment. No one knew what came next. He thought of Jay as a child, his laugh, his skinned knees, the way he'd insisted on sleeping with a nightlight until he was 8. Mark had promised to always keep him safe. I'm still trying, son, he said into the dark. A breeze passed over the ridge, cool and dry. It smelled of stone and ash and time. He listened. In the hush, he imagined a voice not real, not quite, but enough. Keep going, Dad. I'm close. They would search again tomorrow. And the next day. Until they couldn't anymore. Until the mountain gave him back, in body or truth. But for tonight, Mark lit a small fire. A flame for hope. A signal to the boy he would never stop looking for. In the ravine below, the shadows listened. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.